Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to go over the top 30 visits so far for the New York Jets, right? I mean, we all know throughout the draft process, every team can meet with every prospect, but you have limited chances to do that, right? You can meet with them virtually, you can meet with them at the Senior Bowl, at the Combine, at Pro Days. You can do private workouts, right, where the coach, the coordinator, GM, whatever, they fly out to that prospect's team. And again, he puts on a private workout for that specific squad, right? But then you also have the top 30 visits. Now, these kind of, I would say, hold a little bit more weight as far as a deciding factor, right? These, whenever you see a prospect being linked to a team or going to have a top 30 visit, there's interest there. There is definite interest there. Now, it's not to say that the player goes, checks out the facility, and it doesn't really go well, the team doesn't really get a good vibe, then they can cross them off their list. So it's not, you know, these 30 players aren't like the top 30 players that a team is viewing. It's almost falling into two different camps. The first is that the Jets already love that said prospect, right? They love him. He's going to go high in the first round. He probably is going to be a top 10, top 15 pick no matter what. And it's just kind of getting the lay of the land and just doing more meeting, more due diligence, and just compiling more information. But there's a pretty steady understanding within the team, within the coaching staff, within the front office. We love this player. He would be a great fit. And then the other camp is players that are like, okay, maybe the coaching staff really loves, but there's scouting question marks, or vice versa. Or they're players that are like, you know, we really like X, Y, and Z about you, but we have one big question or two big questions. We kind of need to get those ironed out before we fall in love with you, right? So as we go through this list here, I'm looking at the list right now. There's going to be players that are, like pretty much top 10 locks. And then there's guys that are, could be 4th, 5th, 6th round picks here. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting off with quarterbacks, Jordan Travis from Florida State, Michael Pratt, quarterback from Tulane, and Michael Hyers, quarterback from Stanford. Moving on to O-line, Troy Fautanu, tackle/guard from Washington. My guy Jordan Morgan, left tackle from Arizona. Joe Alt, tackle Notre Dame. At wide receiver, Malik Nabers, LSU. Brendan Rice, USC, the son of Jerry Rice. Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. And then Tez Walker, wideout from North Carolina. And then there's also a rumor that Malachi Corley, wide receiver from Western Kentucky, could be having a top 30 visit with the New York Jets, but I haven't been able to confirm that. Flipping over to the defensive side of the football, we have Micah Abraham, corner from Marshall, who is extremely underrated. I mean, he was totally productive for the Herd defense. You got the local dude, Max Melton, corner from Rutgers. And by the way, I think that technically counts as a local visit. So that wouldn't be, under the top 30 category. So in essence, if the Jets, fill out this list and they have 29 players here, 30 players here with Max Melton there, they could bring in one more. That's not from the local area, so not from Rutgers or anything like that they could go out and interview. So cool little benefit there. Jayden Hicks, safety from Washington State. Chop Robinson, linebacker from Penn State. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, linebacker from Notre Dame. And then Maason Smith, D-tackle from LSU. So a couple of interesting names stand out here. Let's talk about the quarterbacks first, right? Here we are again talking about Michael Pratt. Michael Pratt's name continues to pop up over and over and over and over again, and rightfully so. Michael Pratt was extremely productive back at Tulane. He has likable traits. He fits the system. He's accurate. He makes good decisions with the football. He's older. He's experienced. He doesn't need to come in and play right away. There's not going to be any crazy headlines, right? Like if the Jets were to draft, Drake May at spot number 10 or Bo Nix at spot number 10 or something like that. Something crazy, all these storylines would come with the pick. But if they take Michael Pratt in the mid rounds here, nobody's going to be really putting pressure on Michael Pratt to come in and play. Think about this too for a second. I mentioned it in that quarterback video. The amount of football knowledge that's shared between Aaron Rodgers, future first ballot Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, and Tyrod Taylor. You are walking in, I don't care who you are, you're walking in to the Jets locker room as a young quarterback saying, okay, I'm not going to play. I have two options in front of me, so in the event that Rodgers were to get hurt again, I'm still not playing. I'm going through every single day in practice, every single day through training camp, every single preseason game with two longtime veterans. I mean, we're talking 30 plus years of combined football between those two quarterbacks. 30 plus years. Both guys are keeping me under their wing. They're showing me the ropes. They're teaching me everything that they know. I think that is absolutely beautiful. Not many people are talking about it, right? As far as the Jets drafting a quarterback, I think it's really, really important stuff here, right? Aaron Rodgers is under contract for years. Tyrod Taylor, 2-year deal. I mean, there's a really, like, if you're talking about a young developmental quarterback, the Jets are a great destination. The only, I guess, hiccup is, of course, Nathaniel Hackett at offensive coordinator, right? Do you want this coaching staff, defensive-minded Saleh, who really offers nothing offensively, and a ton of red flags and question marks surrounding multiple members of the offensive staff? Do you want this coaching staff developing that quarterback? That's really the only question mark. But as far as, situationally, I really like the landing spot. So Michael Pratt's name continues to pop up, whether it's the pro day visit, the specific scouting, reporters linking Michael Pratt to the Jets, and then of course, just watching Pratt back at Tulane. He does fit what Hackett wants to do. So something to be said here about Michael Pratt constantly being talked about with the New York Jets. At this point, I would not be surprised or shocked if he is the Jets pick in round 3 or round 4, but probably round 4. So moving on to offensive line here, Joe Alt is kind of the example of what I was talking about before, right? Top 10, top 15 guaranteed. I don't really see a situation where Joe Alt slides outside of the top 15. So this is just kind of lay of the lands, getting more experience, getting more one-on-one time and whatnot between the player and the team. But Jordan Morgan, I think, is so interesting because he's not talked about as a first half of round 1 type of prospect. He's more so talked about late round 1, round 2. So I don't see a situation where the Jets would take him at 10. So it makes you think, okay, well, what about a trade down scenario? The Jets are in a perfect situation for another team to move up and select a quarterback. The Raiders wanting to move up, the Broncos wanting to move up, whoever it may be, because the Vikings are sitting there at 11. If the Vikings trade up with the New England Patriots and the New England Patriots have a quarterback that they have their eye on at 11, you still would want to jump New England. Tons of different scenarios, but if they were to slide back a little bit and pick up a second rounder in this year's class, would Jordan Morgan be the ideal fit? Morgan is a guy who, he's coming off a season where he was first team All Pac-12. I love the amount of experience he's had. 2019, 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 5 years of experience with the Wildcats offensive line. Really good size. I think he projects well to the next level. Not many people talk about his athleticism, quickness, being able to move well and to kick outside really quickly, right? When trying to block against more athletic defensive ends. I'm a big fan of Jordan Morgan, but and then Fautanu is a really, really interesting option as well. I think the common thing that everybody talks about with Troy, he's like an AVT clone. He can play tackle, he can play guard, he can play on the left side, he can play on the right side, and obviously that's kind of a Joe Douglas type of fit here. Moving on to wide receiver, nothing really stands out. I guess Brendan Rice, potentially, because, he's not really labeled as a first-round pick. He's being talked about more so in the 3rd round. At corner, again, Abraham from Marshall, just take 10 minutes and check out some highlights from him. If you don't know him, he is really impressive and fun to watch, right? He bailed the Hurts defense out multiple times last season. Really good ability to track the football in the air. I love Abraham from Marshall here. Max Melton is super interesting as well, right? Senior Bowl standout, super productive back at Rutgers. But here, moving on to linebackers here, this is the player that I'm just totally shocked with, right? Chop Robinson, linebacker from Penn State, right? You look at Manny Diaz's defense back at Penn State, it's literally my favorite defense, right? NFL, college football. Last season, Manny Diaz's Nittany Lions defense was my favorite of 2023. So much fun to watch. The blitzing on early downs, the blitzes coming from any sort of which way, left side, right side, up the middle. off the side, it was a complete nightmare for opposing offenses. Now, Chop Robinson's a guy who wasn't all that productive when you look at the main numbers, but when you look at the athletic ability and you look at how he tests, this is somebody who projects to the NFL well, right? This is somebody who I feel like would be a good fit for Jacksonville and like Trent Baalke, because he's always into the, like think Travon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson, right? He likes that upside, the athletic ability over what you've done in college. But to me, this move to me is like Will McDonald from Iowa State, where he's super athletic and the Jets are just completely loaded at defensive end. So yeah, and then, of course, Jean-Baptiste, Maason Smith, D tackle. Maason Smith is an interesting option. In fact, he was actually, I think, my third or fourth round pick in my first mock draft that I did in the season. So I do feel like he would really fit that system. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, go Jets.